God showed me the river of life flowing from the throne of God, with the tree of life on either side. Its leaves were for the healing of the nations. The river of life flowing from the throne of God. During these past 4 months, 5 months, we have heard a lot about a miracle cure, about the idea of there being a miracle cure which would take the form of a virus for the pandemic. This has always been the hope of humankind, that we would have some amazing drug that would take care of whatever ails us. There is, in fact, I'm telling you this morning, there is in fact a miracle drug. One does in fact exist. It has been known for thousands of years, this miracle drug. Without the use of it, we would all die in 3 days. This miracle drug, if ingested, will improve our energy, improve our mood, and decrease anxiety. If used appropriately in the right amounts, it has the property to help with heart disease, to aid the pain of arthritis, and in women, to reduce the risk of colon cancer. This miracle drug, as I say, has been known for thousands of years. In fact, we even have the chemical name for it. It is called H2O. It is called water. Miracle drug. Without it, we don't live for three days if we lack it. It makes crops to grow. It makes us healthier in mind, body, and spirit. The miracle drug, H2O, simply water. This miracle drug is what created life on the earth. All life emerged from water. Our bodies are 60 to 75% water. Even our supposedly dry bones contain small amounts of water. The Earth's surface is 70% water. We lived in California for 5-6 years, Janice and I. And living on the West Coast and having family on the East Coast, we would often fly from San Diego across the country, through the western part of the country to the East Coast. And the thing that always amazed me as I looked down, about 45 minutes out of Lindbergh Airport in San Diego, as I looked down to the Imperial Valley, you could see absolutely clearly the effect of water. Because the Imperial Valley, which from nature only has 3 inches of water a year, with irrigation is proclaimed, is changed into this amazing fruitfulness. When you buy strawberries in the winter, or other winter fruits or vegetables, very likely they come from the Imperial Valley in California. As you fly over the Imperial Valley at 30,000 feet, you can look down and you can see the line, the demarcation, from where the valley is watered and is green to where the irrigation ends and everything is brown and devoid of life. Water, this amazing miracle drug, is the giver and sustainer of all life. Water is also central to the Christian religious tradition. Water begins and ends the Bible. In the book of Genesis, at the beginning of the Bible, we read about the Garden of Eden and the river of life in the garden, the waters, everything growing in the garden. And then in the book of Revelation, at the very end of the Bible, we again encounter this river of life flowing through paradise. Let me read the words that are used to describe it. God showed me the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God, through the middle of the city. On either side of the river, the tree of life with its 12 kinds of fruit, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. So water is what waters the tree of life in the garden, and the leaves are for the healing of the nations. Water has properties of healing. It's amazing the number of major events in the Bible that take place in vicinities of water, wells in particular. Both Moses and Isaac meet their wives at a well. The angel of the Lord finds Hagar, the servant of Abraham, finds her in the desert by a well. Jesus speaks to the woman of Samaria at the well of Jacob. And of course, Christian baptism is a central act of the church that has water as its centerpiece, the life-giving, healing power of water in baptism. Water, however, sadly, water is in trouble in the modern world. Water is undergoing all kinds of assaults for mankind. We've all read about the water situation in Flint, Michigan 3 or 4 years ago, and more recently in Newark, New Jersey, where the water in the city is revealed to be no longer of good standards. We've read for several years about the plastic island in the Pacific, a large floating island of plastic debris from our use of plastic around the world in the middle of the Pacific. And just recently, scientists have discovered, washed up in Antarctica, pieces of plastic from the other continents of the world. Scientists have calculated that by 2050, the volume of plastic in the ocean will equal the volume of the fish in the ocean. 2050, plastic equal in volume to the fish in the ocean. It is not as though we have not made progress in ecology. You may remember back in the 1970s, the Cuyahoga River in Ohio, which was famous for catching fire periodically. A concerted effort reduced that river to health. The Hudson River, which was once greatly polluted, is now able again to be fished in safely. And I remember being in LA in the 1970s and seeing this extraordinary cloud of air pollution hanging over the city. And the air of Los Angeles is actually improved in the decades since then. There was a time when the environment was not a partisan issue. There was a time when it was not a red or blue issue, as it tends to be today. Republican Teddy Roosevelt hugely increased the national parks in America. He did not open them to gas and well drilling. He did not seek to sell them off. He greatly increased the volume, the land area of the national parks. Republican Richard Nixon instituted the Environment Protection Agency. Republican George W.H. Bush fought hard in Congress to strengthen the Clean Air Act. Republicans all in fighting for environmental causes. It may be well to remember that water is not only a promise of new life, water is also a warning. In baptism, water is a symbol of both life and death. The words of baptism say that we die to sin and rise to new life. And so water is both life and death. It carries both those symbols. And water will be our judgment if we do not deal with the ecological crises of our time. Water will be our judgment in terms of swallowing coastline and swallowing city. If we don't care about the well-being of the water and the rest of the environment, water will be our judge. We need to work together. We've done it before. We can do it again. We need to do three things. We need to take seriously what it says in the Bible is humankind's role in nature. Not to exploit it, not to abuse it, but to use it to protect and cherish. That's what our Christian Bible says about the environment, that our role is to cherish and protect. We need to actually believe the scientists who've told us for over 3 decades that climate change is real and it's human caused. We need to believe them. And then finally, we need to act on it. This will be a major effort, but we've done major efforts before. We can do major efforts again. I'd like to close with a reading which I found very moving, written by someone named Kitty O'Meara. It speaks both to the pandemic we've been through and also to the environmental crisis. And she writes, "And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced, some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently. And the people healed, and in the absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, the earth began to heal. When the danger passed, and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses, and made new choices, and dreamed new images, and created new ways as they had been healed. May it always be so that we heal and are healers, that we honor the earth and kindle a light in the darkness. Amen.